Hey everyone, Lance Wright with Life Over Addiction. Most of us, we have a friend or a loved one that struggles with alcohol or substances or some other behavioral addiction. And I guess for families, the first thing I'd like to say is that it's not a moral deficiency and it's not as easy as quitting. If I had $1 for every parent that told their son or daughter or loved one, just give it up and quit and go get a job and straighten your life out, I'd probably be a millionaire. You see, addiction is a disease of the brain, and it's not a disease like you might understand in a normal setting. Part of our brain, or at least one of the oldest parts of our brain, is called the amygdala. And the amygdala deals with 3 pertinent issues in our lives that have helped us evolve as a species: pleasure, procreation, and survival. You know that time when you're hungry, you don't have time for lunch, and it's about 2 in the afternoon, you start getting that headache, that nauseous feeling? That's the amygdala taking over the system to let you know that we need to eat. It's a two-way conversation until I'm not getting what I want. And then the amygdala exerts itself to impose upon us to do something with urgency to fill that need. So we go eat a hamburger, and within 5 minutes we feel better, and as the amygdala, I just go back into the backdrop, monitoring the system because everything is balanced in homeostasis and cool until the next time. That's how powerful that part of our brain is to help us survive. And now, a hamburger doesn't even compare to opiates, uppers, alcohol, or other behavioral addictions that give us such a dopamine rush, it's off the Richter scale. And it's great at first, but at some point it becomes more of hiding out in my closet doing drugs or drinking because I'm embarrassed and full of shame, don't want to be around people, and I can't stop. What happens is that when I get to a certain point with alcohol or substance abuse, I lose the ability to make healthy choices and decisions because everything I'm operating on is from my primal brain, which says, I want pleasure, I do not want pain, and I need this to survive. When an alcoholic is at that point, they're in their full-blown alcoholism or addiction. If we're an addict or alcoholic, maybe it's a combination thereof. That primal part of our brain, once it gets what it wants more. And it isn't going to stop until you get it. An alcoholic in the morning when you have the shake, because right then, you're being controlled by the most primal part of your brain, and all it wants is to escape. It wants its drug. It doesn't want to feel pain. It doesn't want to suffer. It doesn't want to feel the shame of the consequences of what's happened in their lives. Our brain is locked into the need and the desire to keep perpetuating this feeling or this place. No matter what, it's hard to stop on your own. Usually it takes an intervention, treatment, and some aftercare to help a client or a loved one go through that process and come out the other end with half a chance at staying sober. A lot of parents or family members don't know how to deal with addiction. And so they say, just get a job or just stop. And I wish it was that easy. We wouldn't need treatment centers or people like me in your life. You do an intervention, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be happy. It's not going to be pleasant. But there's hope in that process. But getting up to that point, for an alcoholic or addict to stop on their own is almost impossible when they're in the throes of it. And so it continues to perpetuate this myth or this lie to us that we need this substance more than family, more than friends, more than the very people that love us the most, our wife, our kids, anybody. And it's insanity. And that's exactly what happens when you're in it. And so if you're going to approach somebody in that place, you need to know and understand what's going on. Addiction is a very cunning and baffling thing. And I just got done doing an intervention with a young man. This young man was smoking 3 to 5 grams of fentanyl a day. A little puff would kill me. What this guy was exhaling when he smoked fentanyl would probably kill me. That's how bad of an addict he was. And I didn't even think that was possible. And even when I was getting ready to do the intervention, I spoke with his family about the situation and how he had to have safeguards in place. I set up the intervention with the family. I do most of the interventions with the family because part of it is helping them understand what's going on and helping them get clear on the story. Because mom has a story, dad has a story, brother has a story, sister has a story, the best friends have a story, but they're all different stories until they come together and they realize that it's much worse than any one of the stories that they believed in, and then they usually want to go ahead and do the intervention before it's too late. I tell people this is not a place for resentments, this is not a place for judgment or anger or hostility or you did or you didn't do. Leave that at home. My interventions, when I do them, we sit down and we prepare to meet with their loved one. We sit down with the family, we talk about memories, what they miss about their loved one. What would it be like if their loved one was able to get sober and work through all their issues and do their amends with the families and come back into the fold? How great would that be? And so the family, I give them a little form letter just to get clear on what we're up to let their loved one know that they miss them, they have memories with them, that they really look forward to having again, and that they want their loved one to get help. in that vein, we're not attacking. As an addict, if you're doing an intervention on me and you come after me and attack me, I'm out. See, that's an excuse to run. Because when I'm in my addiction, I don't want you telling me anything. But if you don't and you come at me from a place of love, it's going to stop me. It's going to allow me to listen. And so in that space, you can insert love. You can insert compassion and empathy and a desire to have me back in your life. And so here we are. We're in an intervention. Your loved one wants to run with every bit of their fiber. Every bit of it. It's their skin's crawling. It's overwhelming to be in a position of being loved. Because an addict or alcoholic, we feel so much shame and guilt, and they're not attacking. What is this? And all they're asking me to do is get help, and I know they care. And the very thing an addict wants is love and empathy and compassion. They want that warm hug that they're so ashamed of, that they didn't think they'd ever get. And here we are in an intervention giving that to them, but also giving them an opportunity to get help, to be part of the family again. And that's what we all want. Point in this intervention with the young man that was smoking all the fentanyl, that his brother stopped and looked at him in the eye and he says, "Hey bro, we both did a lot of things together. I don't want to lose my brother. Please get help." And I've never heard a more compassionate, deep, heartfelt plea from a loved one than that moment. And that was the moment that his mind shifted. And he says, okay. Got into treatment. And on the way to treatment, we talked about alcohol and substance abuse and how bad it was in his life. If you're doing that much fentanyl, you're probably selling or doing things that are illegal or unhealthy and hurting other people. It's more of a lifestyle thing. It's the money, it's the hustle, it's the grind. It's the thing that keeps you thinking about just that and not all the other insanity. And he agreed. He saw that too. And he got into detox that day, and he's in there, and about 9 days in, he has a break. I get a call. He's having a full-scale meltdown. The reality, substance abuse, or actually his fentanyl abuse, hit him. How many times did he overdose and almost die? He did die. That's what an overdose is, but got brought back. How many people may or may not have died from the drugs he was selling? And that reality overwhelmed him. And I told him to sit still, wait for the doctor. They're going to give him some medication and knock him out for the night, and it's going to be okay. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. He listened to me, and he made it through detox. And I'm just sharing one journey of one family and one man that I'm helping right now. Is we had to go dispose of the drugs at his storage locker. Escorted him to his storage locker where he disposed of 3 bricks of fentanyl and 650 pressed pills. That's enough to kill a lot of people. Watch this man dispose of it. It's just no longer in circulation, and it never will be. It took a lot of courage and heart and commitment on that young man to do that. And today he's doing really well. He's getting ready to graduate a treatment program, aftercare program. He's got a sponsor. He's going to programming. And how many people were spared in the last 150 days, including himself, from fentanyl abuse or possible death? That's what this is really about. And this miracle can happen for any family member or a loved one. And it starts with a phone call, reaching out to somebody like me to ask for guidance and help with your loved one. And right now I've been working with him at a reduced rate because we've been out a few months. And I just support him in being sober, talking about him about what a healthy relationship looks like, how to go through certain things in life. He's planning on going to a school which will give him an accreditation, which will give him a profession that can support himself and his family as he grows it. And he's a respectful young man. And all that said and done, this is just one man's journey. And there are thousands out there suffering. Maybe you have a loved one, a friend. All of us have someone in our lives that's struggling with alcohol or substance abuse. And there is a solution. It's not easy. It's going to take a lot of support. With that, I just open the floor up to some questions. If you guys have any questions, or you have loved ones that have family members or a friend that's struggling with alcohol or substance abuse and don't know how to navigate it, feel free to ask questions. I'm here for you. This is Life Over Addiction, my company. I'm also someone that's been sober over 30 years. I had a really broken childhood that led to drug and alcohol and criminal behavior as an addiction. And by the grace of God, I met someone along the way that helped me see a better way. And for whatever reason, I listened to him, and I'm here today talking to you as a free man, sober 30 years. I know it's possible. And some of you, I even know some of you checking in, know my story. Sometimes I don't know who this is because it's such a strange life, but I'm so grateful I get to help people each and every day. Addiction 101 covers so many areas. I will say one thing. Having an addiction professional walking through this entire process with you and your loved one is priceless, because it really is a disease of the brain. It's not a disease like in the contemporary, like cancer, but it is a disease because once that neural pathway is formed in our brain that says drugs, alcohol. Well, actually, no, let's reverse that. It's a neural pathway that says sadness, loneliness, despair, loss, happiness, joy. Drugs and alcohol make it all better or make it all go away. And the longer you practice that, that becomes a habit, which eventually becomes an addiction with progressive consequences. That's the brain in a nutshell. But it's a lot deeper and it deals with a lot more intimate stuff that's going on in your brain. And it takes about 3 weeks to 30 days of sobriety before we can even start to think clearly. That's why I believe that we go to treatment for that kind of period of time. The minimum is 30 days. You should do nothing less than 30 days in treatment. Or at least have somebody by your side for at least 30 days that's testing you and holding you accountable. It's not like the old days where you just took an alcoholic and talked to him and you went to a meeting and everything was great. You have a lot of people out there dying daily and overdosing daily on fentanyl and heroin and everything else. Don't go through this process with your loved one alone. A lot of families pick up the phone because their loved one has a problem. They'll call a treatment center. They'll get a hold of an admissions coordinator. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing. This is just part of the business and part of something I do behind the scenes. And that admissions coordinator would run your insurance and say, surely we'll take your client. You drop them off, they do 30 days, they do their counseling, they get sober, they get their affect back, they feel better. And on the backside, they might give them an IOP or a PHP, which is more treatment, but less formal, but more groups. And then at some point in time, they graduate that and they're free to roam the world. And it's almost some ways a shame that that's where it ends. Because just like prison, somebody might have did 27 years, let's say, from 19 to 48 was in prison. Well, addiction and using and alcoholism is a prison. And for somebody that's did it for a long period of time, they forget how to function in society and how to do things in a healthy manner. And so here you are at treatment, you walk out the back door with a good luck. Here's an AA meeting list and a therapist that might be able to help you if you can get into her schedule or his schedule. And good luck. And that's just unethical, in my opinion, at the back end of treatment. It's like, thank you for your money. It's nice that you've been sober. You're a success rate because you made 60 or 90 days in our program from treatment to IOP and PHP. Now live and prosper. And that's just so unethical because just like prison, a guy does all that time and gets out and he gets $200 at the gate and they say, good luck with that parole officer that wants to violate. They have no idea how to live in the real world and function. And so what I get to do when I work with families, from the intervention at the front end and overseeing the whole treatment process to the back end with a few months of aftercare, is I get to find the treatment center for you that's appropriate for your level. What I'll typically do when you contact me and it's a go on the intervention and you've paid the price for the intervention, because I get paid up front, I don't play around, I don't want it to be a money haggle because I'm all in with you and your loved one, period. I'll immediately start checking with 3 different admissions coordinators that I trust to see what facilities in the state that are quality that your loved one can go to. I'll pick 3 that I feel are quality, and I will personally go visit them and talk to their admissions coordinator and their staff and do a walkthrough to see that it's safe and a healthy environment to help them. I'll make sure there's an ROI when we drop them off so I can stay in constant touch with the treatment centers. And on the back end, I'm there to pick that client up and walk the rest of the path with him. And while he's in there or she's in there, I'm working with them to develop a plan for them leaving treatment. So you understand, it's not just an intervention, it's a lifestyle. We have to help them see this as a big picture, and that's where I or someone like me comes into the picture from the very beginning, helping the family. And how does a family know how treatment? I've had horror stories where I've actually heard administrative staff tell their therapists to tell the families that the loved one needed to stay in treatment long. Why? They've been doing well. They've got an aftercare plan in place. Well, we just want them to stay longer. We feel they need more treatment. And in some instances, that might be the case. But in many instances, that isn't the case, and it's just about your good old money or sucking that insurance money. And I'm probably going to make some enemies with some treatment centers. I don't care. Some of you shouldn't be in business anyway. Those that are doing quality work, I love you and I got your back, and I'll work with you for free if you need help going to pick somebody up and get them help. But if you're running the game and it's about the money, not about the client or their loved one or their future, then you're in it for the wrong reasons, and I hope you go out of business because you're evil and people are dying because of you. So we get into business. I have an ROI. I can go and look in on their treatment. I don't need to know all the details, but I can call, hey, how is he doing on his testing? Are his tests clean? Are his levels 0 or dropping? Because usually when we go in, we're fucking lit and loaded off our butt and the test glows in the dark. But over time, those numbers come down. Is he on medications that are helping with cravings? Should we consider that if it's an opiate addict and he's leaving treatment after 3 months? And so I can keep track of what's going on and help that client get the care they need and make sure that the family and insurance companies aren't getting screwed by a scrupulous company or treatments. And on the back end, I pick the client up and I help them adjust to society because we've already been developing a plan to do that and what they want to do with their life. It's not just getting sober, it's a lifestyle change. You know, there's a good friend of mine who I was working with a long time ago. Still a good friend, and I love him with all my heart. But when I first started going to his apartment, this guy spent more money on Grubhub than I do on my mortgage. That's crazy. And his apartment looked like a giant pizza box, sandwich wrapper, chicken bucket, disaster. And we used to talk about he wanted to get healthy, and he wanted to eat healthy, and he wanted to get a trainer, he wanted to clean his apartment, he wanted to feel better, but he struggled. And I just kept saying, support him. Maybe this week you call a trainer, just check it out. Maybe you do this, check it out. And about a month later, I go visit his apartment. It's spotless. Like he had 3 housekeepers come in and clean it. He had a juicer. He had chicken, vegetables, fruit, fish. I was like, damn, you got on a diet? And I got he said he had a trainer too. And I said, wow, you're dieting, getting your life back together. And he stopped me like dead in my tracks. He goes, it's not a freaking diet, it's a lifestyle change. That's what sobriety is. It's not about just not using drugs. It's about living your life, period. And some of us need help learning how to do that. Others may have better benefits. But I can guarantee this. With somebody in your corner, you're going to have much more success. A couple thoughts before I go. I want to talk a little bit about God. I'm not pushing religion, but just about God. Because a lot of people talk about spirituality and this and that. Most of us in addiction are angry at God for the life and the cards we've been dealt. So to try to push God on one of us is like, you're already hitting a brick wall. I blamed God for everything in early recovery. He took my mom. I never had a father. I had a shitty childhood. I used to complain a lot about what God wasn't doing or what he had done. Everything was God's fault. And I remember one day, man, complaining to my mentor. And I love this man more than a father. He was everything. I was complaining and he turned around and he goes, Lance, what is it that God needs to do for you that you can't do for yourself? And it stopped me because I hadn't been responsible for my life. I had been blaming God for it and living a life of debauchery. And so from that day on, I realized that I had to be responsible for my choices, my decisions, my actions. I couldn't blame God. God wasn't going to come down and make my bed. He wasn't going to wash my clothes. He might give me the courage to confront things that are difficult. He might support me and give me peace of mind when I need it, but he's not going to undo the things that I need to be responsible for. So my relationship to God is in that place. It's kind of almost like a roller coaster. The first thing you do when you sit in that roller coaster that you've never been on that's going to be really crazy is you pull that little rack down to hold you in the roller coaster while you do the ride. That's what God is to me. And he has always kept me to this point. I remember back in the year 2000, I was incarcerated at the time. I had about 7 years sober. I was doing really good. Life was great, but I had no thought of ever coming home. The governor of the state of California was saying a toe tag and a body bag were our parole date. Several governors. And here I am doing this time, and I'm doing a great program. I'm actually more free now than I'd ever been outside of prison at that point, which is crazy to say because inwardly freedom is much more important than externally. This freedom in here is much more priceless. I get to sit in the back of this chapel. It's Palm Sunday. I'm kind of exploring religion. I'm going to get baptized the next week. I have this question in my head. 7 years sober, doing everything right, but no idea what's around the next corner, what my future even looks like. And it's like, what's the point? I don't see any reason to keep doing good shit. Why? Why do I keep struggling? Why do I keep getting denied? Why do people keep telling me I'm going to die here when I'm doing everything right? I've always had an attitude about that kind of stuff. And so I asked that question, and I honestly don't think it was a question. I think it was a spiritual question or a spiritual prayer from my heart to the universe or the God of my understanding. And this little voice spoke back, and it was quiet. It was kind of really deeply personal. He goes, continue to do the things I set before you and I'll show you ever greater things. And I was like, what? That's not a real answer. That doesn't let me see around the corner or what the future looks like. But it did say, if you rely on me and do what I put before you, I'll show you greater things. I almost want to cry right now because I didn't see this moment talking to you ever happening. Of having a home, a wife, a family, respect, integrity, freedom, this opportunity, freedom, not just in here, but out here. I get to serve people and help people in ways that are unimaginable. And I'm very humbled to the journey because God's got me on. And I don't know who out there among you he's going to put in my path again. But when he does, I'll be there because it's not about me. It's about the people I've hurt in the past. And it's about those families that are hurting. And it's about saving lives. Message me. Share, like, follow. I love to talk and get involved in conversations. You can look me up at lifeoveraddiction.com, or actually you can email me at info@lifeoveraddiction.com. And let's start a new conversation for you or your loved one.